Hello, welcome to the Business Advocate Podcast. My name is Russell Carrier. I'm the owner of First Choice Business Brokers of East Tennessee and Nashville. And as you know, we discuss topics that hopefully benefit business owners out there. And today is no different. We're going to be talking about a topic that I believe most people don't think of doing as a business owner and what the possible benefits are. And that is becoming a board member for a nonprofit organization. And today I have an extremely welcome guest of Deb Macfarland Enright. And she is partners with Ellen Jansen with a company called Leadership After Dark. Welcome very much to the podcast, Deb.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here.
I am extremely excited about this topic. I've been a business owner for 30 years. And over that 30 years, I've never even considered being a board member for a nonprofit until I met you.
Wow. Okay. Good.
So I'm very excited to talk about this because I don't know if other business owners are just more advanced than I am, have learned about this early in their careers. It's something I think is a huge benefit after our conversations. And this is why I wanted you on the podcast, because I am becoming a true believer in your messaging.
Good.
So Deb, explain a little bit of being a board member. What does it mean? And especially with a nonprofit.
Great. That's a great way to get started, Russell. Thank you. So let me go back to how I perhaps was introduced to serving. That is important. When I grew up, my parents were always involved in the community, in the church. My mom was actually the first chair of the trustees as a woman in the 70s. My dad started what we would say a nonprofit now, although he fully funded a Saturday morning sports program that helped hundreds of kids who did not have access to basketball and football at the time. And he did that for 10 years. So this notion of just civic leadership became just part of what I knew. Now, did they sit down and say, okay, look, in your career trajectory, here's when you need to start thinking about this? No. I certainly knew they were engaged. And I certainly saw the prep work they did and how hard they worked outside of, my mom was a stay-at-home and my dad worked and traveled around the country. And that was an add-on, but there were no complaints. It was just kind of something that you did. So when I moved into my first job, which was actually in higher education at my alma mater, I worked with the board of the university, of the college, actually, sorry. And so I saw it in action. But I will tell you, Russell, unless I had that kind of adventure in my early days, not only as a kid, but in my career, I would have known about it in terms of the structure, but it's truly why I enjoy and am an advocate for this movement of getting really high performing people like yourself onto boards, but also understanding the real pleasure and adventure that it provides. So getting into the work and serving in a consultant way with strategic planning, leadership development, and operational excellence for this nonprofit sector, you really do understand how consequential the impact can be for board members and how they can really help elevate, expand, and make stronger a nonprofit organization.
Okay. Thank you very much for giving the history. I should ask that. I didn't. So
it was a good discussion point, that's all. And anytime I can lift up my parents, I'm all about it.
Absolutely. Well, and it gives an understanding that you were raised in that type of environment I wasn't. My father was extremely business focused, and that's all we did. It was all about business all the time. And we didn't do nonprofits. My parents were involved in the community as far as helping people start businesses, improve businesses, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's just what we're aware of through our careers and what gets brought to us. So that is honestly, a huge benefit for you to have been able to see that and witness that.
100%. And I think that's what's so exciting, particularly about where the nonprofit sector is moving in the culture, right? So now, particular with across generations, there is this real passion to serve, either from a work balance kind of angle or from maybe I do have more time. Maybe my home responsibilities have lessened a bit, and I have more time. And the nonprofit sector, you and I have talked about this. I mean, honestly, save for one particular section of how the nonprofit and for-profit do business, they're the same. And I think when people understand that, then they go, oh, well, hey, maybe I can help. Maybe I don't need to know about a certain thing, but this stuff that I've been doing forever, let's just say it's marketing. I've been doing that forever. And so, I can lean in with my expertise and experience and have it make a difference. And I think that people understanding that really is exciting. It's not just about writing a checkbook. It's not just about making sure that you can fill a table at an event. Depending on the maturation level of the nonprofit, you can find your fit in terms of who you're serving, right? What the mission is, but also how your expertise and experience is going to matter. And then there's a whole bunch of other benefits too.
We are definitely going to cover those benefits. Is there an age preference? I mean, can somebody who just graduated from high school, for instance, or somebody who just got their degree from a college or university, or is it a business owner who's been in business for 5 years? Is there a typical age that somebody should start looking at this to become a board member of a nonprofit?
Okay, so that's the best question to start off the conversation that anybody has ever asked me, because I believe people think age and money are the two barriers. But I will tell you, from serving from a local board to an international board, age certainly matters in terms of what you can bring. But let me unpack it from the different levels you described, which is brilliant. So let's start with a high school. I will tell you that there may be advisory boards or junior boards that are looking for that voice. There may be an organization that deals particularly with mental health. And while we think we know, research says that we can be off as adults in terms of what our current teens need for mental health, either for therapy or understanding how to cope and coping skills outside of therapy. So similarly, if there is a sports organization, why wouldn't you have athletes who are benefiting from the organization? Now, I love my middle schoolers and I love my elementary, but I think high schoolers would be appropriate at that point, right? So, and that also, Russell, gives them an idea of what it might look like to serve later. Okay. For recent graduates, heck yeah, get involved. That voice is so important because every time generationally it happens, but it's a different voice to pour in. And it can produce a pipeline for the organization, for new thinking, for new people. It can expand the demographic reach of the organization. That's really great certainly for development, but also for thinking forward. So recent grads, absolutely. And the nice thing is for recent grads, the soft skills they may be missing because of hybrid work or fully remote work, they may gain some of those because those are multi-generational experiences. So any age, I think sometimes, Russell, what most folks believe when they think about a board, it's, people who are super rich or forward facing people, right? So sales, marketing, C-suite. But I got to tell you, the back of the house folks, with what they can bring, is now even more important for sustaining and growing and strengthening the operational excellence of a nonprofit. So while it sounds like all of the above, it's all of the above. Any age, I like the high school. I think that's a marvelous way to do it. But just having exposure to see, like you and I, with different opportunities to be involved in what our parents did, I wouldn't have known until my college. I would not have really known about board work. So yeah, I think the earlier the better. And it may be you're not going to, you may not even be a voting member as a high school person, but you might. There are some boards that are so committed to having that younger voice that they do onboard them and they can be voting members.
Excellent. I appreciate that. So then I'm going to ask the next question, and you're kind of talking about it a little bit, what people expect of a board and what they traditionally view a board to look like. And I know the answer, but I'm going to put it out there because I want people to listen to this. Diversity. I see a board in my head, when I hear board members, I think of old crotchety white men. I'm perfectly honest.
I love the conversation. I'm glad we're having it. Yeah, absolutely.
So, and I know because I've been doing a lot of research since you and I met that boards are looking for a diverse board. They want men, they want women, they want Black, they want white, they want Asian, they want Hispanic. They want multicultural people as part of a board now so they can get the inclusivity of the ideas and knowledge that they bring. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a couple ways to kind of think about that and cut the data, if you will. So absolutely right. Inclusivity is important because everyone should be able to have the chance to go on this adventure. I mean, it is life affirming. It can be frustrating. And it is added work, but it is, you're going to meet people you never would have met. You're going to have whatever level of impact you choose to have. You're going to have consequential impact, right? Because you are choosing to help people who work 60 hours in one day to make the world better, whether it's puppies or people or trees or food distribution, right? So just being in that conversation with those folks, no one should miss that. In terms of diversity, I expand that. So you're exactly right. So those are kind of the basic demographics. Absolutely. What youth brings is a different way of looking at a problem, right? So boomers, let me just do it that way. So boomers, me, you, we didn't do a lot of group work growing up, right? And people were actually punished for perhaps their learning styles because we really didn't know that there were a variety of learning styles. Zers come in, late millennials come in, and they have done mostly group work as they have moved through the K-12 system, no matter if you've gone private, charter, public, it doesn't matter, right? Stayed at home. That because the power of that, knowing that helps later in business, has just now become part of the curriculum. Kids learn better together. So bringing even that diversity of learning and thought is very important to a board. It's important geographically about how people might look at an issue. It's important in terms of education, how they might look at a issue. You will also, it's not start to see, there's an expansion of bringing either alumni of those who have gone through a program and now have a seat on the board, which is critical. But we never thought about that before. Now, I'm not really sure if that's going to work for the rescue shelter, but it certainly is going to help for people who have gone through treatments or gone into workforce development or have been the beneficiary of redistribution of food. So we're seeing boards look like the community in which they serve. Yeah, so spot on. So from experience, education, basic demographics, how people might approach something. Now, I believe, especially if you serve on a national or regional or an international board, the ability now to bring people from around the world together on a board, because you can have conversations like we are, just expands this notion of how these organizations can be supported.
So just, I want to correct you on something real quick. I am not a baby boomer.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I am the forgotten generation.
We're the Gen X. Oh my gosh. See, I am so sorry, Russell. That's terrible. Well, okay. So
I look very old for my age.
No, that's not. Oh, jeez. I knew it. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I stepped in it. This is fabulous. I will say that I absolutely agree on it is really in a variety of ways. It is the generation that was going to have to survive the switch to 2000, right? And all of a sudden, we ghosted you guys on a variety of levels. So I want to lift up the Gen Xers now, since I have I put you in the wrong generation. Although I got to say, if you had to be in a generation amongst the ones we chat about, boomers aren't bad.
We'll get back on topic now. So you mentioned already that there are many benefits to being a board member. And I know the list is long. Let's highlight the top 5.
Terrific. I think that the first is just the notion of civic leadership. Leaving an imprint, not for accolades, but for impact. I think the other, for the individual, it's the opportunity to network. And that might sound, what should I say? Transactional?
Just say it.
Transactional versus transformational. Thank you. But it's a reality. You're going to meet people you never would have before. And it could lead to something, or it could cause you to bring forth maybe a problem you've got and somebody helps you to solve it. That's also what we know from networking, right? From our conversations. It helps with the brand. So for folks who are in that small business or starting to grow business, having in the portfolio an active civic leadership participation in the community is critical. People look at that. The folks you're trying to recruit and retain are looking to see what is your footprint in terms of civic leadership. So this helps to increase the brand and increase the reputation. It certainly helps in transitions. So if you've moved into a new area, I have a friend we talked about it yesterday, who's moving to a new area, has served on boards, loves it. And that's how he is going to learn about his community, because you also have just everyday conversations during a board meeting. It's not all just the, getting into the numbers and how are we doing and how many are we serving. I thought that was just a brilliant way to do it. He's got a really long list of leadership positions he's held in the community. And so just going in and maybe even serving on an advisory board before stepping into, so he can understand how this particular region he's moving to views nonprofit board service. So I love the transition. Also, if you are transitioning out of a job, a role, maybe deciding what your next is going to be, this is a nice way not to feel isolated and alone. It goes back to the networking, but it's really nice to be around people who care, have some compassion about something. So maybe you're not sure what your next is going to be, but you need to keep your chops up. This is a way that you can do that. It's almost as though you get to add to your resume doing that. I think the final one, I did think about this a lot. It is a way for a business owner to have a chance to evaluate perhaps an emerging leader in their fold.
Interesting.
Which is another way to check on soft skills, to check on capacity, to check on commitment, to see if that potential promotion or engagement in a new way within the company actually is going to put that person in a beneficial position for them. And I think that you're still doing good. You're providing an opportunity for one on your team to begin to get a bit of a reputation as a civic leader. They're learning about civic leadership. They're also learning about organizations and can help you folks when somebody solicits for an event and you're like, I don't know who you people are. That person who sits on a board may, through their network or just from direct relationship, be able to inform you about, yeah, it's good. I don't think it quite aligns with our core values, or yeah, perfect fit. It makes perfect sense. So I think those would be my 5.
That's awesome. I heard a lot of benefits. And the benefits I was actually alluding to is benefits toward the nonprofit that you're being a board of. And you pointed out a ton of benefits for the possible business owner or individual. And I don't think most people consider that, honestly. And one I want to actually point out, the last one, I didn't even think of it. That is an excellent way to not only broaden the vision of that employee to get them out on a board and represent not just the business that they're working with, but get exposure to other business people that are typically on the board, learn from them, and bring it back to the organization. That is a huge value. And I hate to say about it, like an upsell for the time being served on a board.
Absolutely. And I think just to piggyback off of that, Russell, to look at through the lens about how an organization is going to benefit from like someone like you. So if you look at organizations kind of through 3 lanes, I mean, this goes to the point of like, find your fit, right? So if somebody invites you, and I'll go back to the peoples and puppies thing, but if somebody invites you to serve on a board that serves people and you're like, I'm really kind of lukewarm about people, but I totally love puppies. If you know what you really want to do, if you have this opportunity, it's really helpful. So part of it is just cutting through the data. So we look at it in terms of maturation level, because you and I both know if there needs to be a fit in terms of where the organization is. So if we look at it 3 ways, one is a startup. I'm going to tell you, rest up. If that's your gig, rest up, because a nonprofit is just like a for-profit. It's all hands on deck. They may need to have even policies written, right? But it's so exciting to watch an idea move forward. Then you and I know in the cycle of business life, if you can hit that 5+, right, then all of a sudden you've got an organization that may have started over someone's kitchen table because, I don't know, they found out that kids other kids in their kids' schools didn't get fed over the weekend because of the socioeconomic realities of their life. Now 5 years plus, there's a payroll, there's insurance, there's, oh my gosh, that's going to take a different set of expertise and experience on the board. And then you have legacy. So those are folks who've been around for a while, and they're going to be looking at replication, growth, expansion in a very different way than a 5+ would, and they're going to look at succession, especially if the founder is still there. That takes a particular kind of expertise and experience from folks like you to help navigate that.
So with that, in this conversation, I've heard a lot of different realms of how people can get involved. And it sounds like whatever your interest is, wherever your passion may lie on a personal nature, doesn't even have to be business related. You can jump in, and there's probably a nonprofit that could use that person.
I think that's true. I think that, and if we were going to onboard, one thing to consider would be to volunteer first and get a sense about the operations of the board, how old it is. You can also look on the website, et cetera. I will also say, if I may, that with our training, you're going to be better prepared. There is a lot that goes into being a board member. And there is also a clear demarcation in terms of being oversight and perhaps fiduciary versus going in and actually running it. And that hierarchy in terms of org chart, the expectations of the nonprofit within the state construct, because states will look at that stuff differently. What it means to prepare for meetings, because I'm going to tell you that staff's going to bust it to make sure that you guys know what you need to know. The relationships between the board members, how someone who may start as a volunteer, Russell, right, looking around, and then maybe move, if they have all of these layers, maybe there's an advisory board, or you volunteer as a non-board member on the development committee, the finance committee, and then move up onto the board. Then maybe you want to ascend to the executive committee. I mean, the nice thing is you can spend the rest of your career, whether you're a recent grad or a boomer like me, and have a full impact. But I want folks to fully understand it's not a place for you just to put the address on your LinkedIn page. That is the highest round of disrespect you could give people who literally are looking for a solution to people being hungry, to kids being able to read, to people having a roof over their head. And it's really fun. You're going to be great people, but rest up and decide you're going to really give it your all. That's why, Russell, going back to the iconic old people, right, with big checkbooks, you don't have to be. You don't have to have wealth. If you know some people, that's going to be super helpful. But if you have some energy and expertise and experience that has to do with anything that's operational, or you were in a nonprofit before and now you've seen it one way and you think you can be helpful that way. So there really is no barrier. It's a matter of how you advocate for yourself, but also how you know enough about what you can do. So when someone does come knocking, that you can say, yeah, that would be of interest to me. And I want to know when you're going to meet. And I want to know if there's a financial requirement. And I want to know if I can be on a committee. And then it just becomes much more of a strategic fit versus I don't know what I'm going to do with my time, so I'm going to go sit on a board.
Knowing a little bit more about this now, and again, I don't know who's listening to this. I'm going to, again, assume that there's going to be people listening that never considered this. They don't know what to expect. And you touched on it, Deb. And normally I don't talk about the businesses that people are in when they do this podcast. But this is extremely unique. And what Deb does for a living is she trains people to be on a board. So you know what you're getting yourself into before you do it. And the business, and she's going to announce it at the end. And if you're watching this, there'll be a little tag in the video. Her organization is Leadership After Dark, because if you think about the name of the business, when you're done doing your job or done running your business, you're going out after hours and providing leadership after dark. I love the name. So I love when you start thinking about it and what it means.
Thanks.
It's a very interesting concept for people who have never given this thought before. Now, I know in every pro, right, there's a lot of benefits. And I also know there are things to be watchful for before jumping into this.
Mm-hmm.
Just give me a few of those of what you need to be watchful for before jumping on a board.
I would look at the process. So if they are looking to fill a seat based on somebody having a pulse, that's not the board you want to be on. I would look at the track record of success, because if you are someone who likes to be with a successful organization, that's critical. I would look to see how the current board is structured. So going back to diversity and representation, is it? I would also look to just really ask, I mean, Russell, it's like, am I going to have time? Is this the right season for me? Are you guys going to go into a capital campaign and have to raise millions of dollars? That's not my gig, right? That's not something I want to do. Oh, I also have to devote this much time to doing all of this. It's not a good season for me. I can't. So understanding the scope of work, if you will, I think that's really important, because the very dark side is folks can feel trapped and obligated and become dormant because they don't know also how to get out of something when they've said yes, because they feel badly. And it's not that that's never going to happen, but the more you advocate for what you want board work to look like after you understand what it could look like, then the fits are just going to make so much sense. You're going to have more fun. The organization is going to benefit consequentially from your impact. And we're going to move the whole sector forward.
Very good. So I heard, and you can confirm, deny, or explain, that there could be liability of being on a board. Is that true?
Yes, there are. And a board should have liability insurance. And those are just part of the structures that states require. And this is part of the training. So, I mean, soup to nuts, we're going to get you ready. And it may be that's not, again, the season's not right, or the stability and solvency of the organization. You may not be comfortable being a part of that, but yeah, there are fiduciary responsibilities on a board of directors.
Okay. This is a very large topic. I mean, we raced through this. We're 33 minutes into it. And I know we've only scratched the surface, because I want to be considerate of the people that are listening to this. Deb, if you could just kind of close us out here. Last words, last thoughts.
Serving on a board is one of the best things anyone can do. Leaning in with your expertise and experience to help make the world better, and situating yourself in the company of people who are determined to make it better, makes all of us better who have served on boards. It can be a lot of time, but you're going to meet people who are going to change how you look at things. It can be draining in terms of how many frustrations and great things happen, but you've never would have had those conversations, those events, the ability to be an ambassador for organizations that are really doing good. It's all worth it.
Thank you, Deb, very much for being part of this podcast, the Business Advocate Podcast. Truly appreciate your time and the information.
Russell, thank you so much. It's just really wonderful to be on here with you and to have this conversation. So thank you.
It's been my pleasure. For everybody listening, thank you very much. Quick summary, just a couple high points. If you've never thought about being on a board before, give it some thought. There's a lot of benefits, not just for yourself. Actually consider others before yourself at certain points in your life. There's a lot of needs out there. And whatever or wherever you are in your career, you have a voice, you have an expertise that a board could use. On the flip side, yes, there are benefits. The networking side alone. If you're not networking as a business owner, as a high schooler, as a college student, shame on you. That's how you grow your relationships as you grow as an individual. So just from that alone, you are going to receive a benefit from being a board member on a nonprofit. Whatever your interest is, whatever your cause is, take a look and see what's out there and see if you can contribute. My name is Russell Carrier. I am the owner of First Choice Business Brokers of East Tennessee and Nashville. Deb, if anybody has any questions or would like to contact you, how can they do that?
It's really simple. Deb, DEB, at leadershipafterdark.com.
Excellent. So thank you very much for listening to the Business Advocate podcast. Please hit that like button, subscribe, ring the bell, all those things that you're supposed to do. If you would like to see our ugly mugs, my ugly mug, Deb is nowhere near that. Beautiful woman. If you would like to see the faces with the voices, check us out on YouTube. We will be out there. So thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Have a great day. Thank you for listening to the Business Advocate podcast.